Alright, what's up, yins guys? I'm gonna read a smaller passage here of this here book and a couple of different types of the heading over here. It's gonna be subtitles underneath it. The ultimate bullshitter, and this, like I said in some of my other videos, that you can add to this and they should rewrite for the times, because I remind you this was written before we even had social media. So this is going to take on a whole different demographic, that the stuff can be reversed and inverted the way things are now. You could have a hell of a lot of fun writing a book like this. But anyway, okay, here we go. The ultimate bullshitter. William Shakespeare in Hamlet William Shakespeare in Hamlet said it all when he wrote, "We may be searching out and unmasking deception perpetuated by others, yet there hides within each of us our own little monster. For there is nothing worse than deceiving oneself, a common stir, for there is let me start that over again. You may be able to see it clearly in another person, but like a horse with blinders, it becomes extremely difficult, if not impossible, to see our own selves in our own monovision." The psychoanalysts describe this distortion as ego gone awry. They pinpointed the reason for it, the need to seem more than you actually are because of insecurity, and the attempt to compensate in various ways for seeming lack or rationalization. Whereas we all guilty of some rationalization, we are all speaking here of the extreme, and the ironically, while this type of person is trying to fool and deceive someone else, they all succeed in doing is fooling themselves. Well, you never heard that statement, you can fool some of the people some of the time, or not all the people all the time, or however that... Well, you can even reverse that in some cases, just to be funny, but that's the way this world is. But you can fool all the people some of the time, but not all of the people all of the time, or all the... Well, nobody's perfect, but they are quite easy to spot, and I'm sure everyone in their experience can describe such a person. Here's a few of mine. Yeah, yet this author says this stuff is easy to spot, but yet he didn't predict social media coming, and not only they are easy to spot, they're brazen, and they get all kind of views on social media now. They basically have taken over. So I've said that time and time again in videos that only a few of my choice friends actually watch, because YouTube shadow bans everything. Consider who took over everything. So, all right, Mr. Short Stuff. Usually, this author here is talking about some of our bosses and stuff. Okay, the subtitle, Mr. Short Stuff. He is a physically definitive man, approximately 5 foot tall, who may have added burden of not being handsome and not being balding. Some of the people that are the bad guys in some movies or some comedy movies, always have to have a tall woman by them, and because they bought them or something. But a lot of television celebrities like that too. Okay, the first thing he does is get platform shoes that raise his height to 5'2". He may wear a toupee or has big bucks and can stand pain. May have hair. If he can stand pain, may get hair transplants. No matter what he thinks, it has to be big. He dates a woman, she dare not be 5'2", but must measure at least 6 foot. If he smokes cigar, it can't be a Tiparillo, it has to be a 2-foot Cuban Corona. Well, that's the classic one, like I was just saying on TV. As I read this book. Yeah, and then you can also add, like on TV, they have to have a tall woman, and the woman actually has to be wearing tall spike heels on top of that, and the shortest dress balls. Oh, they had them when you ever have family members that watch soap operas, the rich old man, it had to be a young girl on the weddings of the soap operas. It had to be, the character was an old man, he's wearing a suit, and the girl was like young, could be maybe, you can I guess their age. They can be a young-looking 30 or whatever even. But anyway, the old man in the soap operas is some of it's probably real life too. And I'm trying not to laugh when I say this. If you ever seen family members watch these soap operas, the old man in a suit, rich, and it's a young girl, blonde, and instead of the classic wedding dress, it's a short mini skirt, white mini skirt, and a wedding veil on her head. And I'm trying to say this without laughing, but like I said, this is a short chapter that I'm gonna, because it's covering what this is covering, so I figured I'd add my sarcasm to it when I'll be in a long ass video. Okay, if it's a party of 6, he has to pick up the check for everyone in business. No penny NT deal. It has to be 50 to 75,000 profit for him, and it has to be millions. Yep, like the characters in the soap operas, but you get some of them out there too, or the players that are on TV. You know, publicity bullshit. You know. But above all, he has to be the center of attention and has to drive the biggest automobile, wear the most expensive clothes, talk the loudest, and boast of having the greatest number of women. Okay. So yeah, you see those characters in some movies and soap operas, and sometimes them nighttime soap operas or you even see that in bullshit reality. Bullshit reality shows can be different kinds of people too, but... Alright, now the next subtitle, The Macho Man. He is the rough, tough hombre who, the loud, booming voice macks a latent homosexuality or cowardice. He treats women insultingly, discourteously, condescendingly. He bullies men, women, and children, and anyone he thinks is weaker than himself. He feels he has to athletically perform all competition, not just because you like sports. Nothing wrong with that, you know, nothing wrong with working out and doing it and playing football, of course, you know, like, don't be an asshole like some of these other ones you see on TV, like that you can mention. But most of the better athletes, you know, they do cool things for kids and everything else. But we could talk about a couple of football players that made our news that actually snubbed the kids and didn't show up for certain things and being a dick. But that's another story. But anyway, he's athletically perform all competition. But other words, the author is saying has to outperform anybody athletically and probably take steroids and not just doing something because you like sports and want to have fun. You're going to be a dick about it. You know, that's what the author is saying here. But okay, he has to be more sexually potent than any other man. In other words, always bragging about how big his dick is and he's God's gift to women. He has to look stronger, talk more fiercely, and never admit to any sentiment of weakness. Other words, you know, he could be on steroids or something, but then maybe watch King Kong and never cried when King Kong died or something. But, yeah, how many of you guys out there cried when King Kong died? You know, no shame, you know. But, yeah, wouldn't you pause in the reading of this book? Wouldn't you want to just have a room full of Marines in the dark, you know, and have a hidden camera, or have a room full of, like, football jocks, you know, and put King Kong on in there and hidden camera and see how many of them cried when King Kong died or whatever, you know. But I'm just saying that in a kind of a silly way, not in a real bad way. But the really sick macho man even carries a gun, which he'll probably never dare use. Deep down, though, he is a frightened little child whose emotional growth has a stunted long time ago. But again, you know, nothing wrong with the reasonable right to bear arms, but you get always different kinds of people that out there, you know, when you stand up to them verbally, you know, they got to talk real loud stuff, often broad hints about their AR-15. I mentioned to you guys real silly in a video a long time ago when I was doing Salvation Army kettle, passive-aggressive people, 2 guys. They had all kind of place to go and stand and talk. One of them kind of knew me a little bit, like we're kind of friends I knew work with. Instead of being anywhere here, they're right where the customers all go in. They make sure they're a few feet from me, and I'm the Salvation Army kettle with my little stuffed animal display, swatting their hands around like I don't know, like they're some kind of martial artist or whatever the hell, and gotten to talking like they happen to run each other, like, hey, how you doing? And they happen to stand right by me. And then it goes, and they're like sparring, acting like, you know, what's maybe fake karate or something, what the hell they're doing. And then all of a sudden start talking real loud, real long conversations, real loud repeatedly about their AR-15, you know what I mean? Maybe to try to passive aggressively disrespect the person, you know, collecting for charity out in, for kids out in the weather, you know, they think you're above that. But yeah, you get the person. They're both black and white. You can have both white and black pulling their version of the gangster thing, or talk about guns or whatever, though, too. Nothing wrong with, you know, wanting to stand up for yourself, not want to be the little... But then you can overplay that hand, too, you know what I mean? But some of these kind of people don't like anybody, like, verbally standing up to them and not being intimidated, the macho types, you know what I mean? You disagree with them on one little thing, or don't massage their ego, and cringe to them. They're known to play little games with you at work with a loud voice, heckle with their friends. To act like, you know, school kids, you know, you get grown people play that bullshit, but you could go on and on about that. But yeah, carrying a gun, but yeah, nothing wrong with bearing arms in a good way, but the macho type person, oh, there you have to, when they lose an argument or whatever, they have to make a lot of references to their gun, their AR-15, you know. All right, okay, the next subtopic, okay, after I'm done with my commentary, the genius. I can actually add more subtitles to this. I said this before in videos, but okay, the genius. This person who thinks he's the most brilliant scientist, the most accomplished painter, the most creative composer in the world, he feels that he has not been showered with fame, fortune, adulation, and women fighting with his favors in a world blind, insensitive, stupid, and vulgar. In other words, no matter how much fame and publicity got showered with, it's never enough. Look at me, look at me, look at me. And then you get ones now that are supposed to be the genius. You know, the new shit now that ain't even music. And all of a sudden they're a genius. It's just, you see all this bullshit that's put out there, like Henry Rollins made the comedy about it. You're a fucking thief of records. You're a record player. You can take any record and go and make. You know, I love when Henry Rollins was talking about DJ Fuckhead. You know what I mean? You can go on about that, but just a little paragraph about genius you can add to. Our genius carries an air of superiority of all times, is above any common labor, demands to be waited upon by his mother, mistress, or wife, and of course servants and limousines and all that stuff, and always assumes a pose of being a grip of inspiration. Quite often he is talented and does bring work to completion. The level of accomplishment, however, is not enough. He also makes his own deception and even more difficult to unmask. In his weaker moments, he desperately fights off nagging doubts of being a hack or a second-rate talent, and anger constantly rages not being omnipotent. He is forever frightened of being found out a fraud. To bolster himself, he must consistently denigrate everybody else's work. Well, consistently denigrate everybody else's work. And again, Henry Rollins with DJ Fuckhead. These people, you know a lot of stuff these days, they actually are stealing samples and damn near plagiarizing everybody else's music. All the riffs are taken, and all the best gangster rap things all the best gangster rap expressions are being recycled because they're all taken. All the hard rock, music, even all the riffs are taken, so they gotta reinvent and recycle everything. And even the total egos and personalities are recycled. You can go on and on about that. All right, the good guy, and they're talking about the fake good guy here. So here's the subtitle, The Good Guy. He is the Good Samaritan. He is the kindest, most understanding, most generous, most helpful, the gentlest of men. If you went up to him and slapped him across the face, he'd turn the other cheek. If you are a bore, he'll listen. If you rob him, he'll find valid, excusable reasons for your behavior. He will take almost any abuse you give him and do it with a smile. Under no circumstances will he even risk a hint of rejection, would rather face death. His apparent strengths camouflage the fact that he is dependent upon you and is a prisoner of other people's approbation. His dependency has generated a killing anger and must be constantly suppressed. Sometimes Mr. Good Guy is so good that you want to give him a slap and tell him to get mean and once in a while and be human. In other words, you might be the person that gets taken advantage of for whatever reason too. But yeah, you get these. Oh yeah, and this is another thing too. You get these so-called good guys, like I talked about on the news, that made our TV news. I made videos about this. I'll talk about this because I talked about this paragraph. Couple in the past I seen make the news. Oh, all of a sudden it makes the news that, you know, so-and-so was always walking to work all the time. And it becomes newsworthy. Yeah, this guy, he gets on the camera on the news. How the hell did it make the news? Oh, this guy always walking to work. I saw him walking to work all the time, you know, several miles. So I bought him, I went and got GoFundMe and I bought him a car. Look at me, I made the news. And who called the news and found out? Did the guy, the recipient of the gift, call the news? And I don't know. But I made a video on this a long time ago that gets very few news, and I talk about it on Facebook and mocked it. Somebody did that for me to go buy me a car. I would openly, politely tell him to go fuck himself, really, because what? So I can be your little sheep and then worship you or whatever. No. Then yeah, there was another guy that made the news like recently in the last month before this virus thing was going on, like within, you know, the last, I think, few months. And there was this guy, all of a sudden he happened to be on the news, and to tell the news and everybody that he's going to be this good guy. He literally said I can find the article if you ask me to and get it for you and put it on a link, but made our local news. The guy said, even if it's 3 in the morning, you could knock on his door and he'll drive you anywhere he wants to go. Whatever you ask of him, he'll do it. He puts it on the news. In my case, and as far as I'm concerned, that's almost say, oh, come to my house. What's mine is yours. I'll take you anywhere you want to go. Yeah, you might even be actually intending to go ahead and do some kind of freaking robbery at a gas station. That's dangerous shit. And I mean, you do that, you put yourself out there on the news. You know how you know that guy ain't planning to go rob somebody? Oh, you take me here. Wait here. I gotta go get a money order or go buy cigarettes or something and rob a place and get back in the car. Okay, and then all of a sudden you're in jail and accessory to a robbery. You know, it could happen. And I'm looking like on the news, like the news is celebrating this guy, and I'm like, you almost want to grab him by the collar and say, "You dumb fuck! You realize what you're doing? I wondered about this guy. Of how long would it take before this guy regrets getting himself on the news that way, and all of a sudden he just silently moves away from town, changes his hair color and a new identity, and dumbass, you know what I mean? But yeah, I kid you not. I mean, I saw this on the news. I couldn't believe it myself. I've actually found it. But while some of us, you know, try and not get our names, you know, trashed or anything else when we're trying to do something good, people spreading rumors that you're on crack. You know, you want to keep public trust in a good way. But then you get all these other people that make the freaking news, and they're getting on the news. Yeah, the good guy. All right, that's enough of that. I got to go on to the next title. Mr. Know-It-All. He is the world's authority on anything and everything. If it's sports, he's got the record down pat. If it's politics, he's got the solution to the problem. Forget science. As this discipline is already factual, he's got a complete lock on it. In the more subjective areas of art, religion, and philosophy, he still remains adamant and forceful. He corrects his wife. Yeah, people in religion do this too. Whether you're really religious, you get a bullshitter who does that, or if you've got the non-religious person that has it all and everything. Well, there's a little bit of that in all of us. I mean, because we're trying to protect ourselves against frauds, but then you get the bullshitter that no matter what you say, anything you say is always wrong. But all right, let's go on. He corrects his wife, his children, his parents, his friends. He will argue with anybody who opposes his position on the subject. When he is shaky or weak on the correct answer, he will go to stronger intimidation techniques like betting sums of money. Should he actually be on the verge of losing the argument, he will create his own facts or excuses, anything to blur the issue or confuse it. Or, other words, create a big thing which is actually a big conniption fit. As a smoke screen, create a smoke screen, yell louder, or hurl accusations. Almost like my mother in some ways, when you corner her on certain religion, an aspect of it, a part of religion that, like some of these other people, whether you like your parents or not, or certain other friends or not, these people that don't give a fuck about them and they defend it. They always have to be right about the Jewish feasts and different things. And anyway, he will continue to the end, wriggling out of difficulty. Mr. Know-it-all cannot and dare not lose because his image of himself, he is infallible and will crumble. His inner world of doubt and insecurity, anxiously shored up at every turn, like Humpty Dumpty could not put it together again if he fell and broke. Oh, and here's my favorite one here too. I use this as this next subtitle. I use this as an example. That's why I finally wanted to buy this book again. Mr. Irresistible. Yeah, and this one there's also a Mrs. Irresistible too. Well, just like I did here, Mr. Know-it-all, there was a Mrs. Know-it-all. Keep it in mind. Well, Mr. Irresistible, there's also Mrs. Irresistible. I called it Princess Syndrome because a video I did in the past about the former beauty queen, Miss Pennsylvania, of my state, went to jail for faking her cancer diagnosis and everybody giving her money, and she ultimately went to jail. Mrs. Irresistible, people, they think they deserve people to give them things. Well, like you got social media influencers now. You got whole YouTube channels about that. They think everybody, they're Mr. or Mrs. Good looking. And people were even compelled to actually give them things. And they are they're unsatisfiable. Whatever they get, they want more. So they did like this. I used that example in another video. The former Miss Pennsylvania. Look it up. She went to jail for faking cancer to get everybody to give her money. But okay, let's read on and read. He or she thinks they are good-looking, so irresistible, God's chosen, that to be anything more than handsome or gorgeous would be a waste of energy. He or she is spoiled by their parents, sought-out girls or guys in high school and college, and unless he or she is an exception to this rule, they are able to slide by on their studies and get help from these women or men. Well, that was in sitcoms. Even when I was younger, there was an episode of, remember that old show, The Facts of Life was one of them. The dude was Mr. Irresistible. It was Tootie's one boyfriend, and found out he couldn't really read and do his schoolwork. He was a football player, handsome football player, and everybody helped him cheat. And then she told him, well, if you eventually get on the cover of Sports Illustrated, wouldn't you like to read the article, But anyway, that was some old school stuff, There was back then where they evidently, that was just an example back in them old sitcoms when I was a kid, you were still able to be totally illiterate and have people cheat from you and then become, that's another story. Unless you're an exception to the rule, be able to slide by studies from favors. Well, you get some of that going on now. You got the scandals, the stars that did have scandals and tried to buy their kids into a fancy college and lie that they're an athlete and put fake pictures. But remember that one? All right, let's read on. They're given a cushy job, and they get invited to the best parties. Of course, it's all who you know. Quite often, this type of person will have athletic ability, football quarterback, tennis player, swimmer, golf pro, which helps to enhance the good looks and glamour. Or if they don't really have the talent, they can fake it and have people lie, like them scandals with them stars. And, they're athletes and they're not. They paid people like $1 million each to fake it. I will bring that to level. Okay, these people feel complicated. Oh, hold on. People feel compelled to give them things, do things for them. I'm changing him to them, or he and her, because like I said, the subtitle was Mr. Irresistible, but it could be Mrs. Irresistible. You're seeing that. Like I said, you could rewrite this book for the times. Social media wasn't around during this time. And he or she also feels compelled to give them things and do things for them. Also conditioned to be receiving, believes that their inalienable right, or entitled, is thought of as a good catch, and they will probably make a good rich marriage. You see how some of them wind up. You read about them all the time. But sadly, not always well in this fairy land, because he or she is emotionally and sexually fickle. They are unable to have a true relationship in which exchange exists, ultimately leading to breakup of the marriage or marriages. But welcome to Jersey Shore. But this biggest fear of all is that he or she will grow old and their looks will deteriorate. Too late, he or she realizes that has built nothing solid or permanent. Wistfully, they remember when they were once young, beautiful, and irresistible. There are so many more such types as the big spender, Mr. Cool, Mr. and Mrs. Cool, Mr. Law, Mr. Religion. Even the religious groups. Whether you're it can be in big church too. The Mr. or Mrs. Good-looking or irresistible, the big catch. The aspired handsome or good-looking so-and-so that somebody wants as a good catch is it's in the churches. Yeah, when my mother used to go to these bigger churches that don't give a fuck about people. My mother, I remember, was talking about that she had this friend, and I met him once, that they were eyeing up this young preacher just got at a ministry school, right? That they're minister in the church eventually. And my mother says like that she was really embarrassed by this friend and didn't bother anymore. It's like they're looking at this person like it's Elvis or something. They had a little talk in fellowship, saying hi like you do in church and fellowship. And my mother says the woman was going, you think he likes me? The good catch. But you get some of them that know this, and they're waiting who they can grace with somebody. But on both ends, you get the ones that are taken in by them, and get a big image about them, and you get some of them that know it, But in the church, you got the ones that they walk all like, I'm this or that, and I know it. Yeah, it's in the churches, and it's in the secular groups and everything else. But, yeah. Okay, so let's say the rest of it. Yeah, Mr. Cool, Mr. Law, Mr. Religion, but they all exemplify the monovision person who is not only deceiving him or herself, but shortchanging him or herself and the richest of life experiences. While we may all get taken because of our own selfish interests, some of us even more than once will eventually bring our experience in line and results and make changes. So we are curable, but for the ultimate bullshitter, his or her case is far from pathological, hence their prognosis is quite dim. No common insight will do in this case. He will also, or she will also need the services of a very good therapist. In other words, Dr. Phil material. I don't know if some of the things on Dr. Phil are real, but yeah, there are some of them there. Yeah, I had this cousin once too, about my age, like I said too. he always was getting these girls, some of them younger than him, and even the girls' mothers were all gaga over him and compelled to give him things. And he was like spoiled. I remember in the family, other family members when we were kids, always giving them the expensive gifts. Spoiled. The other grandmother was always buying things. Then when he got older, high school, all the girls liked him. Always parties. Got older, he got with the wrong party and drank a little too much and got in some other drugs. Then, by the time they got my age, they totally ruined their life, in and out of rehab, in and out of jail. You get those type. The partier, some of them, if they don't quit while they're ahead, do that, and then I knew a few people that I went to school with in the past and found out that some of them chilled out and got married and got lives, and other ones, they never grew up, and they were in and out of jail and everything else. Yeah, you got the Mr. or Mrs. Partier type, by the time they get a certain age, you know what I mean? They're still even trying to relive their, even though they could be almost in their 40s like me, and they could be trying to relive they somehow long for the days when they were running around drinking underage, that thrill of not getting caught, and bullshit like that. But anyway, yeah, I could go on and on about that. But the rest of these chapters, I'll see which one I want to pick. Bullshit in business is a different one, Who knows how we'll get to that. You could be getting into politics with that one. Con games. The psychology of bullshit, I'm just taking these chapters at random.